John Sidney McCain III was born August 29, 1936, on a U.S. naval base in the Panama Canal Zone. Like his father and grandfather, McCain attended the Naval Academy. In later years, he often used his time in Annapolis as a source of self-deprecation, highlighting his numerous demerits and 1958 graduation near the bottom of his class. He had already developed a rebellious, wise guy persona that would stick with him throughout his political career. While in high school in Virginia, where he boxed and wrestled, he earned the nickname McNasty. At the Naval Academy, he was dubbed John Wayne McCain, standing up to bullies on behalf of classmates. The 1960s would be eventful for McCain. In October 1962, McCain, then 26, was a pilot on the USS Enterprise, the first nuclear aircraft carrier, which was enforcing the blockade against Cuba during the Cuban Missile Crisis. In 1965, McCain married Carol Shep and adopted her 2 sons from a previous marriage. In 1966, the couple had a daughter. 1 year later, McCain was sent to Vietnam as a naval carrier pilot. On July 29, 1967, a 30-year-old John McCain was getting ready to take off from the USS Forrestal in the Gulf of Tonkin. A Zuni missile accidentally fired from an F-4 Phantom on the deck, striking either McCain's plane or the plane next to him. The missile didn't immediately explode, but at least 1 bomb fell off of a plane and 200 gallons of aviation fuel spilled out onto the deck, catching fire. McCain was fortunate to escape with his life from the inferno, as bombs exploded and planes were engulfed in flames. McCain was hit by shrapnel. The Forrestal blaze killed 134 people, wounded many more, and nearly forced the crew to abandon ship. It is the worst combat-related U.S. naval disaster since World War II. McCain transferred to another aircraft carrier, the USS Oriskany. On October 26, 1967, he set off on his 23rd bombing run over North Vietnam in a 20-plane attack on a power plant in the capital city of Hanoi. But the mission would be cut short. A Russian-made surface-to-air missile blew off his plane's right wing, sending McCain toward the ground in a spiral at 575 miles per hour. He ejected from the cockpit but was knocked unconscious. His right leg was broken at the knee. Both arms also broke. His right one in 3 places. His helmet and oxygen mask were gone. He woke up just as his parachute splashed into a lake. He was pulled from the lake and immediately captured. He was hit with a rifle in the shoulder and bayonets pierced his groin and foot. He would remain in North Vietnamese custody for 5.5 years. As a prisoner of war, the wounded McCain would endure filthy conditions, torture, and other abuse. The POWs looked out for each other, entertained each other, and illicitly communicated with each other using an elaborate system of hand signals, tap codes on the wall, hidden notes, and other techniques. As the son of an admiral, McCain held propaganda value to the North Vietnamese. They hoped to win favorable world opinion by returning McCain, who they dubbed the Crown Prince of the United States, but McCain refused early release because it would violate a code of conduct that required POWs to agree to release in the order in which they were captured. His captors were furious and retaliated by beating him viciously over 4 days until he falsely confessed that he was a, quote, black criminal and a, quote, air pirate. A taped confession in which McCain said he was guilty of, quote, crimes against the Vietnamese country and people, and thanked his captors for saving his life for, quote, lenient treatment. It was broadcast on Radio Hanoi on June 2, 1969. McCain considered that moment one of the darkest of his life. After his release with other POWs in 1973, McCain was celebrated, but he found readjusting to life back home difficult. His marriage deteriorated, and McCain later would call his role in that his, quote, greatest moral failure. Eventually, his life took another direction. He met Cindy Hensley of Phoenix, heiress to an Arizona beer distribution fortune and 17 years younger than McCain. They married and would have 4 children together. He retired from the Navy in 1981. Relocating to Arizona, McCain set his sights on politics. He got the political bug during a late 1970s stint in Washington, D.C. when he worked as the Navy's liaison to the U.S. Senate. In 1982, McCain ran for and won an East Valley-based congressional seat. After 2 terms in the House, McCain succeeded another legendary Arizona Republican, Senator Barry Goldwater, who had been the GOP presidential nominee in 1964 and decided not to run again in 1986. McCain would win re-election again in 92, 98, 2004, 10, and 16. By 2000, his so-called maverick credentials had been burnished enough on a national stage to fuel a serious run at the GOP presidential nomination. In the New Hampshire primary, he handily defeated Republican frontrunner, then Texas Governor George W. Bush, but lost a brutal South Carolina primary that all but assured Bush would win the nomination. McCain returned to Capitol Hill with newfound clout. He became a GOP foil to Bush, the new president, much to the annoyance of many in the conservative base. Most notably, he voted against Bush's signature tax cut package in 2001 and 2003, a move many Republicans would hold against him for years. By 2006, McCain was gearing up for another presidential run, this time as the establishment Republican choice. His campaign was written off by many in 2007 after it nearly capsized from financial problems, but McCain surged late in the year, rallying voters in key states with his no-surrender stance for the unpopular Iraq War. This time, he won his party's nomination and faced Democrat Barack Obama in the general election. One of McCain's biggest decisions at the campaign remains one of his most controversial: his selection of Alaska Governor Sarah Palin as his running mate. Elevating the conservative Palin was an attempt to shore up the shaky GOP base, but critics say McCain helped usher in a new era of far-right politics that 8 years later would lead to President Donald Trump. McCain probably never had much of a chance in the race. Bush's unpopularity over the Iraq War and the Great Recession made Republican prospects bleak in 2008. He would later acknowledge that Obama, the first African-American president, was, quote, an incredibly impressive candidate, and he did a great job campaigning. Back in Arizona, Tea Party-style primary opponents challenged him in 2010 and 2016. They failed both times. In his final race in 2016, attempts by Arizona Democrats to tie McCain to Trump fell flat, partly because voters knew McCain so well. McCain would publicly feud with Trump throughout the political cycle and dramatically outperformed him in Arizona, which Trump would also carry. McCain, as an Armed Services Committee chairman, was willing to act as a check on Trump when necessary. He was once again hailed as the maverick when he helped block GOP efforts to roll back the Affordable Care Act in 2017. He cited a need for renewed bipartisanship and regular Senate order that had all but vanished. His dignified response to his brain cancer diagnosis furthered his reputation as one of the modern era's giants of the Senate. Asked by CNN how he'd like to be remembered, McCain acknowledged that he'd made mistakes in his life, but he'd also like people to recall that, quote, he served his country, and I hope you could add, honorably.